What if I told you Humphrey Bogart followed Casablanca with a movie that stripped away almost everything that had made him a romantic icon? No nightclub, no Ingrid Bergman, no romance. This was Sahara, a real desert that Hollywood had to build. Real soldiers preparing for a real war, and a struggle in the sand one actor claimed left him unconscious. These are the 10 weird facts about Sahara, starting with the 2,000 tons of sand Hollywood dragged into the desert. Fact number 10. The real desert Hollywood had to fake. Hollywood took Humphrey Bogart into the California desert and decided nature had failed the screen test. Sahara was filmed in the Imperial Valley near Brawley, California. The location was remote, and production histories say temperatures climbed into the 90s during the shoot, even though filming began in the winter. But the ground was too hard, the sand would not move, and the hills lacked the dramatic shadows director Zoltan Korda wanted. So the production reportedly hauled in approximately 2,000 tons of loose sand. The sand was sprayed with light paint, then blown with wind machines to make the ripples stand out in black and white. They even spray painted shadows across the hills, as if the sun itself needed direction. And the sweat pouring down the actors' faces? That was reportedly petroleum jelly and water, applied so it would remain visible between takes. A real desert, imported sand, painted shadows, fake sweat. But the men inside Bogart's tank were even stranger. One had stood on an Olympic podium, one had played Tarzan, and another would become one of Hollywood's most memorable villains. Fact number 9. Bogart's tank crew was a time capsule. The quiet soldier beside him had already stood on an Olympic podium and played Tarzan. Another would soon terrify audiences as one of the film noir's most poisonous villains. And a third was years away from becoming a television star. Bruce Bennett plays Waco Hoyt, Bogart's dependable second in command. But before he was Bruce Bennett, he was Herman Brix, one of the finest shot putters in the world. Brix won a silver medal for the U.S. at the 1928 Olympic Games, then Hollywood turned him into Tarzan. He played the jungle hero in The New Adventures of Tarzan before changing his name and rebuilding his character as a supporting actor. Jimmy Doyle, the radio operator, is played by Dan Duryea. Duryea would soon become one of film noir's most wonderfully hateful villains. But in Sahara, Hollywood puts that future menace inside Bogart's tank and makes him trustworthy. Lloyd Bridges is there too, years before Sea Hunt made him a television star. Bogart's apparently ordinary crew contained an Olympian, a former Tarzan, a future television icon, and one of Hollywood's most memorable villains. But some of the men surrounding them were not actors at all. They were rehearsing for the possibility of war. Fact number 8. Real soldiers were rehearsing for real war. These men were not simply acting. They were rehearsing for the possibility of war. Sahara was filmed near the U.S. Army's enormous desert training center, where thousands of troops were learning to fight under punishing heat, dust, and isolation. Production accounts say approximately 100 enlisted men, along with equipment from an armored reconnaissance unit, appeared in the film. So some of the soldiers running through Bogart's battle scenes were not studio extras dressed in uniform. They were real troops briefly borrowed by Hollywood, staging a desert war while training for whatever combat assignment might come next. Even Lulu Bell had one tread in reality. The American-built M3 medium tank had already been used by British forces in North Africa. Its unusual design, with the main gun mounted in the side of the hull, looks almost invented for the screen. But many wartime viewers may have recognized its silhouette from images of the actual desert campaign. And the movie begins after one of that campaign's darkest defeats. The strange part is that audiences already knew how the story ended. Fact number 7. The defeat audiences knew had already been reversed. Imagine sitting in a theater in October 1943. On screen, Bogart's unit is retreating through the desert after Tobruk, damaged, isolated, and running out of water. But the audience already knows something that characters do not. 5 months later, Axis forces in North Africa had surrendered. The defeat unfolding on screen had already been reversed in real life. The fall of Tobruk in June 1942 had been a fresh military wound. German and Italian forces captured the strategically important Libyan port, along with tens of thousands of Allied prisoners. Bogart's Joe Gunn emerges from that retreat with Lulu Bell barely moving and most of his unit gone. But history was moving faster than Hollywood. Sahara was filmed from January through April 1943. In May, the North African campaign ended in Allied victory. By the time the movie entered general release in October, audiences knew the retreat was not the end. Bogart filmed a story about losing the desert. Audiences watched it knowing the Allies had won it. And the man leading that retreat almost was not Bogart at all. Fact number 6. The role that helped reveal Bogart as a war hero almost belonged to someone else. Glenn Ford and Melvin Douglas were connected to early plans. Brian Donlevy was then expected to star. One contemporary report said Donlevy was tired of war pictures and wanted to make a comedy. Another said he was reluctant to leave on location while his wife was expecting a child. Whatever tipped the decision, Don Levy stepped away, and Bogart walked into the desert. The timing was almost perfect. Bogart was reportedly weary of the gangsters and criminals Hollywood had asked him to play for years. One actor left the war behind. The other found a new kind of hero inside it. Bogart was not the performer the Academy singled out. That honor went to an enemy prisoner. Fact number 5. The enemy prisoner got Sahara's acting nomination, but Bogart didn't. J. Carroll Naish plays Giuseppe, an Italian soldier captured in the desert. In a similar propaganda film, Giuseppe may have been a coward, a joke, or a faceless enemy. Instead, Sahara shows him to be frightened and still brave. He talks about his family, he separates ordinary Italians from Mussolini's regime, and when the German prisoner tries to pull him back toward the Axis cause, Giuseppe rejects him. The Academy noticed. Sahara received 3 Oscar nominations: Black and White Cinematography, Sound Recording, and Best Supporting Actor for Naish. Bogart was nominated that year, but for Casablanca, not Sahara. The prisoner received Sahara's acting nomination. The tank commander did not. The timing made Giuseppe even more striking. Italy announced an armistice with the Allies in September 1943. Sahara entered general release the following month. Audiences watched an Italian soldier reject fascism just as Italy's alliance with Nazi Germany was breaking apart. But the movie's strangest political connection came from somewhere else entirely: the Soviet Union. Fact number 4. Hollywood borrowed from the Soviets, then blacklisted its own writer. The story behind Sahara has a strange cinematic family tree. One branch reached back to Philip McDonald's novel Patrol, which also inspired John Ford's The Lost Patrol. But Sahara also drew from a 1937 Soviet film called The 13. That film follows a small group trapped near a nearly dry desert well while a much larger enemy force closes in. The defenders deceive the enemy into believing the well contains more water than it really does. Sound familiar? In 1943, Hollywood did not need to hide the Soviet influence. The Soviet Union was an essential American ally against Nazi Germany, but then the political winds changed. John Howard Lawson, one of Sahara's credited screenwriters, was called before the House Un-American Activities Committee in 1947. He refused to answer questions about his political associations. Lawson became one of the Hollywood 10. He was convicted of contempt of Congress, imprisoned, and blacklisted. Hollywood had borrowed from a Soviet film to celebrate unity against fascism. 4 years later, after Lawson refused to answer HUAC's questions, Hollywood shut out one of the men who wrote it out of the industry. But the most dangerous story from Sahara supposedly happened in the sand. Fact number 3. Production legend. The scene that may have become real. According to a story Kurt Kruger told decades later, and one that has never been independently confirmed, a fight scene in Sahara may have become dangerously real. Kruger played the captured German pilot. Rex Ingram played Tambol, the Sudanese soldier who tackles him in the sand. Kruger later claimed Ingram became so absorbed in the struggle that he continued pressing Kruger's face into the sand. He said he lost consciousness before director Zoltan Korda finally stopped the scene. Kruger also claimed the crew kept watching because they thought they were seeing an exceptionally convincing performance. If he remembered it accurately, the German prisoner was not acting unconscious. He may have actually been out cold. And the actor Kruger blamed for nearly suffocating him was giving 1943 audiences something they rarely saw: a black character with genuine authority. Fact number 2. Sahara was progressive. Until it wasn't. Rex Ingram's Tambol is not comic relief. He is not a servant. He is a Sudanese soldier serving with the British forces, intelligent, disciplined, and essential to the group's survival. In 1943 Hollywood, that was nearly radical. Hollywood often confined black performers to minor, submissive, or comic roles. Tambol stands beside Bogart as a soldier. The film insists that courage does not belong to one race or nation, but the contradiction was impossible to miss. The US military was still segregated. Hollywood still offered black actors roles narrowed by stereotype and segregation. And Tambol, despite his dignity, is still written through some of the most colonial assumptions of the period. Sahara imagined black and white soldiers fighting together against fascism, while the country producing the film still enforced division at home. But the film's biggest experiment was Humphrey Bogart himself. Fact number 1. Hollywood stripped away everything that made Bogart a romantic icon. Humphrey Bogart began filming Sahara on January 29, 1943. Just 6 days earlier, Casablanca had entered national release. Audiences saw Sahara after Rick Blaine had made Bogart immortal. But Bogart created Joe Gunn before anyone could grasp the full force of what Casablanca would do to his image. And the two roles could hardly look more different. No nightclub, no tuxedo, no piano, no mysterious woman walking back into his life. There's not even a credited female character in Sahara. Hollywood had spent years using Bogart's face to threaten people. Sahara used that same face to make men follow him. His menace became command, his restraint became trust. Casablanca made Bogart immortal by showing us the woman he could not keep. Sahara proved he did not need a woman in the picture at all. So there you have it. The real desert Hollywood rebuilt with 2,000 tons of sand, the real soldiers fighting a fictional battle, the Olympian, former Tarzan, and future stars hiding inside Bogart's tank, the enemy prisoner who received Sahara's acting nomination, and the struggle in the sand that may have become terrifyingly real. If stories like this make you see Hollywood's golden age differently, subscribe to Flashback Rewind. There are many more hidden stories still waiting to be told. Sahara stripped away Bogart's romance, his glamour, his mystery, and discovered that underneath it all, he was someone men would follow anywhere.